So anyway, like I said, basically what happened with Roosevelt is pretty much, and those people in the stock market, J.C. Morgan, J.C. Penney, basically, like I said, what they were doing was they're skimming off the top. You know, pretty much in manufacturing, if you want to make something like this, you need to have this much aluminum, the batteries are inside. You need to have, it's a physical thing, basically. So anyway, though, Roosevelt and all those other people were like, it's negotiable. It's always negotiable. Everything's negotiable. And it's like, well, this weighs like 28 grams, basically. And this is 28 grams of good steel, pretty much, and brass. Now, Roosevelt and all the people of the stock market, the people at J.C. Morgan, J.C. Penney, all those people, the people that were in New York, were thinking that this is negotiable. But it's like, how do you, if you sell and buy a 23 gram, now you could sell this for 30 grams of metal or 30 grams of iron or whatever, 30 grams of something, and still make this, yes. But the thing was 1700 to 1800, basically speculation became king, or speculation, basically Roosevelt and everybody were like pretending like they were rich, and they were basically just, they wanted to buy America, or they wanted to buy the United States, basically. And it's like, so they spent all this money and wanted to say that they owned it and everything else like that. But the thing was, like I said, they had taken people's metal, taken people's money, and then the people wanted their metal. Wanted their items. Like they had gotten, everybody in America had mined and gotten this much metal for their knife, or their object. And people at Roosevelt and people that were on the stock market had speculated and borrowed money, and basically then said, we're rich, we're rich, we're rich, we're so rich, and then ran around like crazy, spending all the metal that was needed to make the items that they had sold. And then they went to the Chinese and went to all my factories and all my companies, basically, I got your metal. Here's 36 metal. We agreed on 36 metal. And it's like, well, it's 28 grams per one, and we just can't do that. It's negotiable. It's always negotiable. We agreed. Here, look. I have it signed right here that says. Anyway, they tried to do this stuff, and I just told my people, I was like, just do what you can with what they give you. So everybody got like these little bitty knives and these little bitty traction engines and stuff, because the people in the stock market and then the people at that wanted their steam engines were like, well, I ordered a big one and I gave you enough metal for the big one. Why isn't it a big one? So then Roosevelt and all those people in the stock market, JCP, all those big shots of the stock market. Yeah, I'm a wheel dealer. I got all day. They all realized that they were lying. They had spent all the money on clothes and women. They had given women the money. They had spent the money on a new car. Instead of, they had sold 28 grams worth of steel, of traction engines to farmers. And then they had bought a car instead. And that metal was supposed to be going to the factories of Singapore and China. And then they had sent people over there to Singapore and China to kill those people so they could buy those cars and everything. And that's what Adolf Hitler and a bunch of other people were doing, is that they were just, the stock market was literally a stock market. I could provide traction engines or knives and everything, but I needed metal for that. So it's a physical thing. It's like you can't have a 3,000 pound car unless you have 3,000 pounds of metal. So Nixon and all those other people, they thought that it was negotiable. And it's like, it's a physical thing. It's not negotiable. So and then they went over there and tortured the people and it basically forced the people to make the stuff, because if they don't make the stuff, then they're going to come after us. It's like, well, I guess they're going to come after you. Maybe you shouldn't have lied. So anyway, so that's where the Republican Party and the Democratic Party really started just going and then when they hit the ground, they hit afterburner. Because, you can't, there is no negotiating physical matter. And I tried to explain this to him. I was like, there's nothing my people can do. There is no negotiating physical matter. And so Adolf Hitler and a bunch of other people that thought that they could borrow money or thought that they could do this, do that, they all turned out to be liars. And basically their customers came after them because they had gotten huge amounts of metal from the world, from the whole country. The whole country had shipped lots of metal to New York expecting to get traction engines. Or cars or something, some item from the lit. It says there, if you want on the order forms, it would say send us X amount of minerals or whatever, and then we'll send you the item. Or saying, and we would make the item a little bit smaller if you didn't have good enough metal. We'd just be like, well, we tried to make it that big, but we couldn't because you didn't send us enough ingots. So we made it this big. And most of our customers were happy with what we sent them because, well, we still got the item. It's just that's a bit smaller than it was supposed to be. So anyway, so all this stuff is going around and stuff, and basically, we're us in Singapore, us in China, us in everywhere. We're all just doing. We're miners. We're mining. We're in the production thing. Birmingham. Metal's what we do. And and we have the smelting facilities, we have everything's going good. But this New York Stock Exchange is just going into la la land, because they're collecting metal from the United States, and they're saying to the farmers, yeah, send us the metal, and the farmers are going out and mining the minerals or whatever, and these little work crews are mining the metal and being like, well, we're going to get our traction engine. When are we going to get our traction engine? When are we going to get our stamp mill? And it's like, and they sent the metal to New York. And New York was just keeping it. And that's where Roosevelt was just driving around in his car, living the large life, off all this speculation stock. And whereas it's just this huge bubble of, they seemed rich, they looked rich, they were even trying to buy the United States, but they didn't have the metal or the money. And then Nixon tries to carry it on even further by doing massive inflation and massive printing of money. And it's like it wasn't his to print. Anyway, in the end, after looking over everything that happened and how it happened and why it happened, it's like, wow, and these people were just, throwing change, throwing silver dollars at women and being like, and the women were just coming up like crazy and everything else like that. And some of the women were like, well, the money's not really gone. We saved it. So anyway, luckily they spent most of it on women. So there was a silver lining, as they say. And we were able to do something, and it didn't like crash the system like, because that's what the men were doing. And the men were just doing this little lie scam thing, and had planned on killing a bunch of people and all that. So anyway, with the stock market and everything that happened, that's basically what happened, pretty much. And basically Nixon, Roosevelt, a bunch of people thought everything's negotiable. It's like, well, physical matter really isn't negotiable. You can't negotiate. It's kind of like negotiating with time. It's like, 1 minute doesn't have to pass. We can only make we can make it 36 seconds, and only 36 seconds will pass. And it's like, well, time is kind of like one of those things. It's like physical matter. It just passes. You can't really bargain your way out of it. You can't negotiate your way out of it. It's a law of physics. Anyway, so they eventually came to me and they were like, well, we can negotiate this. Like, you can't negotiate with your death or negotiate with physical matter. It's just impossible. So anyway, and they were just living on this fake thing. Anyway, so the stock market crashed, and there was an even bigger stock market crash along before that, where they just went out and killed a bunch of people and then pretended like it never happened. So anyway, and then it crashes again because mostly I think probably because they know, well, there's a hunger shortage and they know that these people are probably going to come and kill them or something like that. Anyway, I don't know. You have to ask Roosevelt and all those people in the stock market.